Mr. Andre Bissett is an older black man in his 60s, with neatly styled salt and pepper hair, a modest yet elegant suit, and a subtle presence that commands respect without ever seeking attention. His calm and penetrating gaze betrays the experience and wisdom he has gained over decades of hard work and strategic decisions. His always impeccable silhouette exudes an aura of dignity, but also a serenity that comes from the certainty of having overcome life's challenges with integrity. An accomplished billionaire, Mr. Bissett owns several luxury hotels in major cities worldwide, establishments where refinement and exceptional service are the defining qualities. Each property he owns embodies a unique vision of luxury, combining comfort and sophistication, yet always in a pursuit of harmony and simplicity. His hotels are renowned not only for their majestic architecture but also for the quality of the welcome they offer to their clients, who always feel valued regardless of their status. However, his immense financial success has never led him away from his core values: humility and respect for others. Despite his fortune, Mr. Bissett lives in total discretion, preferring the shadows to the spotlight. He rarely appears in public and avoids social events, preferring to invest his time in charitable work or initiatives aimed at improving the living conditions of disadvantaged communities. Those who know him understand that he is extraordinarily generous, always ready to help those in need without ever seeking recognition. Mr. Bissett has always believed that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the positive impact a person can have on those around them. His business, built through hard work and perseverance, is now a model of ethics and social responsibility. His employees, whether in a hotel in Paris or New York, all testify to the kindness and respect he shows them, and to the way he listens and understands, no matter the circumstances. He is a rare man, whose greatness is measured not only by his professional success, but by his ability to remain grounded in the principles that have guided him throughout his life. Far from the spotlight, Mr. Andre Bissett embodies an ideal of discreet and authentic success, where money is merely a means, never an end in itself. One day, Andre decides to visit one of his hotels incognito to assess the quality of the service and ensure that his employees are not neglecting the principles that are dear to him. He goes to the reception discreetly, dressed in a worn trench coat and carrying an old leather suitcase, his appearance deliberately unkempt, far from the image he usually presents in his business dealings. The suitcase, with its corners worn by time, seems to date back several decades, adding to his appearance as a humble man. He has taken care not to attract attention and slips into the lobby of his own establishment. The contrast between his appearance and the opulence of the place is striking. The sumptuous lobby, with its sparkling chandeliers, plush carpets, and refined furniture, radiates an aura of unattainable luxury. The walls, adorned with portraits of famous artists, and the imposing columns seem to hold grandeur, reflected in the faces of the clients walking through, all dressed in elegant attire. However, as soon as Andre enters, a subtle change in the atmosphere is felt. Employees exchange disapproving glances. Some frown, others avert their gaze, shocked by the man's unkempt appearance. None of them immediately recognize who he truly is. The receptionist, a young woman well made up but clearly impatient, glances at the man standing before her. She sizes him up from head to toe, her gaze lingering on his worn clothes and battered suitcase. Without even attempting to hide her boredom, she takes a deep breath and offers him a forced smile, as though used to dealing with less presentable clients with condescension. "Can I help you, sir?" she asks in a monotone voice, her gaze distant, retreating behind her polished marble counter. Andre, unperturbed, maintains a calm and serene expression, as though unaffected by the cold reception. He knows what he wants and responds in a measured tone. "Yes, I would like a room for 2 nights, he says simply, without elaborating, attentively observing her. The young receptionist, visibly irritated by the situation, casts a dismissive glance at the computer before looking up at him, her lips curling into a slight smirk. She adopts a slightly firmer tone and repeats, this time with a hint of disdain. "I'm afraid this hotel might be a bit out of your price range," she retorts with a barely visible smile, as though she were doing him a favor. "Perhaps you'd prefer another, more affordable establishment that might better suit your profile." Andre remains calm, his voice soft but firm. He feels the weight of the employees' gazes upon him, but he does not let it disturb him. His gaze pierces through the receptionist's coldness, and he shows no emotion in the face of the humiliation he might feel. André, far from being disturbed by the receptionist's apparent contempt, remains unwavering in his approach. He does not get angry, nor does he raise his voice. On the contrary, he displays absolute patience, a quality he has cultivated over the years and considers essential in his role as a leader. He knows that the truth is not in appearances, but in the essence of things, and it is this conviction that drives him to calmly insist. "If you could check one more time, I would truly appreciate it," he repeats, still respectful but firm. After a few minutes of silence and nervous typing on her keyboard, the receptionist finally sighs and assigns him a room. However, she doesn't give him the best one. In fact, quite the opposite. She assigns him a room on the outskirts of the hotel, a small suite that lacks the panoramic view or the comfort one might expect from an establishment of this caliber. Her excuse that he had not booked in advance seems rather clumsy, but André simply smiles politely, aware that the hostess is trying to minimize him by giving him what she considers to be a last-minute room. When the key is handed to him, André does not protest. He takes the key with a slight nod, as if to signal that he accepts the outcome of the situation, but is observing everything. He ascends to his room calmly, his gaze scrutinizing every detail. He notices that the environment is far from the quality he would expect from one of his luxury hotels. The room is clean, certainly, but the furniture is more worn, and the decor less refined. The curtains are a little dusty, and the carpet shows evident signs of wear. Yet, André is not unsettled by these imperfections. On the contrary, he recalls the early days of his own journey, the sacrifices he had to make, and how each step forward in his career was marked by compromises and difficult moments. During his stay, he takes the time to observe the staff with particular attention. The employees, always elegant and professional, are impeccable in their attitude toward the clients they deem worthy of attention. The staff smiles warmly, offering services with meticulous care, even anticipating the client's needs. Everything seems to go as planned for the important clients, those who fit the usual criteria of wealth, status, or appearance. The bellhops rush to serve them, the restaurant servers offer them special dishes, and the concierges ensure that everything is perfect in their rooms. But as soon as one of these employees crosses paths with someone they judge unfit to frequent the hotel, like André, who, with his unkempt appearance, seems not to fit the stereotype of the expected guest, their behavior changes instantly. They become more distant, less smiley. Some even ignore them completely, as if they simply aren't worthy of being served. One morning, as André wakes up early, as is his habit, he decides to have breakfast in the hotel restaurant. The atmosphere is calm, almost solemn. The chandeliers hanging from the ceiling diffuse a soft light, and the impeccably dressed servers move fluidly between the tables covered with white linens. Despite his modest appearance, André sits at an isolated table, away from the more animated areas of the restaurant, in order not to attract attention. He keeps his coat on, his suitcase still at his feet, and sits quietly. He raises his hand to signal the waiter. The young man, with a closed expression and drawn features, gives him a cold glance before moving toward him. But the way he drags his feet makes André immediately perceive that something more lies in his attitude, as if the mere fact of having to take care of him is a burden. He waits a few moments, patient, observing the movements of the staff around him. The restaurant slowly begins to fill with well-dressed clients, travelers and corporate executives, all wearing perfectly tailored suits, their conversations hushed by the murmur of discussions and the delicate background music. The waiter, visibly annoyed, takes some time to approach him. He finally takes the order with a look of disdain, as if every word André speaks is a burden. "A coffee, please," André asks in a calm voice, not expecting any warmer response than the previous one. The waiter nods, but without any sense of urgency, before walking away, casting a last quick glance at André's worn leather suitcase, as though this object were out of place in the luxurious restaurant setting. Meanwhile, at a neighboring table, a white man in his 40s, dressed in a business suit, casually makes barely concealed remarks to his colleague, another man in a dark suit. Their conversation is barely audible, but André hears enough to understand its content. The man, sitting with his legs spread in an arrogant posture of self-assurance, murmurs, "Can you imagine people like that in a place like this? What a lack of class." He glances at André, as if he were an intruder in this luxurious world. He doesn't even know how to carry himself. Really, he should be somewhere else. The client's tone is cold, contemptuous, and his gaze lingers on André for just a moment too long, as if to emphasize his superior position. People like that, he seems to suggest, simply shouldn't be in such a place. André feels the humiliation seeping in, but he does not react. He remains impassive, his gaze never leaving the waiter, who, far from being in a hurry, lingers to chat with another staff member behind the counter. However, the customer's remark, as detestable as it is, stirs deep reflection in André. He does not let himself be carried away by anger or the need to respond to the provocation. He knows that this reaction, as vile as it may be, is a reflection of some people's ignorance and pettiness. He focuses on what he can control, his dignity and his ability to remain in control of his emotions. The waiter eventually returns with his coffee, a gleaming white cup placed in front of him with almost mechanical precision. No welcoming words, no smile. He simply sets down the cup, gestures to leave, and waits. André, still calm, thanks him with a nod. The waiter doesn't respond, merely walking away without a word, as if André were nothing more than a shadow in this seemingly glorious hotel. The customer at the neighboring table, who has observed the scene, straightens up in his chair, visibly satisfied with the humiliation he has tacitly imposed, and turns his gaze toward his colleague. Their conversation resumes, bolder now, with nervous laughter. However, this laughter is tinged with something far heavier, something that resembles more of a desperate attempt to mask their own insecurity than genuine camaraderie. André takes a sip of his coffee, the bitter taste of the situation blending with the warmth of the drink. But he doesn't let it affect him. Luxury, to him, has never been about social status or appearance. He worked for it, with rigor and determination, not to impress others, but to prove to himself that he was capable of building an empire on solid foundations. And today, in this hotel, he observes those who take luxury for granted and dare to judge others based on superficial criteria. He straightens up in his chair and continues drinking his coffee, the sounds and whispers around him becoming increasingly blurred. He knows he will return to this table, to this same restaurant, but next time, it won't be for just a cup of coffee. It will be to make sure that those who judge without understanding get what they paid for. André, unshaken, finishes his coffee with a serenity that contrasts with the bustle around him. He doesn't let the murmurs or furtive glances from the other guests trouble him. After setting the cup down on the table, he slowly stands, grabs his suitcase, and leaves the restaurant without another word. Far from being affected by the attitude of the staff and the guests, he walks with the quiet confidence that defines his reputation. The hotel lobby, still as grand, now seems colder in his eyes, like a facade meant to hide the imperfections behind the luxury. In the following days, André continues his silent observation, making sure not to draw attention. Every gesture, every interaction, every glance is recorded in his memory. He sees how certain employees rush to fulfill the requests of the important clients, those who seem to belong to a certain world, with a more refined appearance and a higher bearing. But he also notices the indifference, even hostility, with which those who, like him, do not fit the hotel's superficial expectations are treated. He feels the insidious discrimination creeping into every interaction. Then, one morning, after several days of observation, André decides it's time. He contacts the hotel manager and requests an impromptu meeting. As soon as he enters the meeting room, the atmosphere shifts instantly. The staff members seated around the table stop talking and straighten in their chairs. Curious glances are cast his way, although none of them immediately recognize the man who has just walked in. His appearance is still understated, but an aura of calm and dignity emanates from him, making the others a bit nervous. The manager, still unsure of who this man is, stands up hastily. "May I know why you requested this meeting?" he asks in a hesitant voice, trying to figure out whether this encounter is related to a complaint or an incident. There's no malice in his words, but a trace of anxiety he tries to hide. Andre, unperturbed, takes his time before responding. He stands tall, calm but imposing, and looks at each of the staff members around him. He sees them all: the receptionist who treated him with condescension, the waiter who ignored him, the manager who failed to look beyond appearances. Then, finally, he speaks. "I am Andre Bissett, the owner of this establishment," he says in a clear, confident voice. A heavy silence falls immediately. No noise. No movement. The employees exchange uncertain glances, one after the other, but no one dares to speak. He lets a moment of silence pass, allowing his words to resonate. Then he continues. "I've spent a few days here incognito to evaluate the customer experience. What I've seen deeply disappointed me. Appearances should never dictate the quality of service. I've observed how you treated certain clients. People like me, perhaps, who don't fit the profile you expect. You judged me without knowing who I was, and it's exactly this kind of behavior that I want to eradicate in my hotels." The silence in the room is palpable. The faces of the employees, once closed or skeptical, slowly transform. Some turn red, others lower their eyes, and a few struggle to meet his gaze. The receptionist, in particular, seems to have no idea where to look, and her usually confident demeanor fades. The manager, meanwhile, seems torn between astonishment and guilt. He clears his throat, but no words come out. The atmosphere is thick with shame and discomfort. Andre, serene, continues. "You've all witnessed what happened. The treatment I received, and the treatment reserved for other clients like me, is unacceptable. You cannot allow superficial judgments to define the experience you offer. No matter a person's appearance or social status, every client deserves the same respect, the same level of service. From now on, I demand equal treatment for every client, without exception. And believe me, I will ensure that this becomes a reality." The employees remain frozen, as if petrified by Andre's quiet strength. The manager, unsure of how to respond, merely gives a weak nod. He feels the tension rise and realizes that this is not a request, but an order. The rules of the game have changed. Andre turns toward the door, ready to leave the room. Before stepping out, he turns one last time to make a final remark. A hotel is a home for everyone. It must offer a welcome without judgment, without distinction. If you cannot accept that, you have no place in this establishment. I hope you reflect on what you've seen here today. Then he exits, leaving behind a team of employees who, faced with this revelation, realize how the hospitality they had envisioned until then was nothing more than a mirage. But true lessons are rarely easy to accept. The story ends with a powerful lesson, etched into the minds of those who witnessed the incident. Andre Bissett's revelation, an apparently ordinary man in his worn trench coat, shattered the established order in this luxury hotel. This moment of truth sheds light on a universal truth. Humility and respect must transcend prejudice, and even those who seem ordinary can hide an unexpected greatness. Andre was not just a wealthy and powerful man but a model of dignity and wisdom, embodying the true essence of hospitality, which lies not in status, but in how we treat others. The staff, initially stunned, suddenly find themselves confronted with their own smallness, their hasty judgments, and their inability to see beyond appearances. The repercussions of the experience are not immediate, but they slowly creep into the minds of those who were present. Some begin to question their actions and motivations, seeking to understand why they judged someone based on their appearance, why they allowed their own prejudices to dictate their behavior. The hotel manager, who, although uncertain and embarrassed at first, now feels invested with a new mission, engages in discussions with the team on how to improve guest reception. Training sessions multiply, focusing on diversity, inclusivity, and the importance of equal service for all, regardless of social status, appearance, or background. These sessions, initially seen as a burden, gradually become a real opportunity for personal and professional growth. The employees, now more aware, begin to see the world differently. Andre, for his part, continues his life quietly, but remains an invisible witness to this change. He doesn't need to draw attention to his actions. He knows that true transformations often come in silence, without fanfare. He continues to oversee his hotels, but now the emphasis is on humility and kindness, in addition to luxury and elegance. The story, though it ended in a grand revelation, leaves behind a lasting mark. What seemed like a simple anonymous visit becomes a pivotal moment, a turning point for the hotel, but also for each person who crossed André's path. Those who met him or even just heard of him understand that greatness is not measured by wealth or outward recognition, but by how one treats others, with complete humility. The story of this discreet billionaire, who chose to act in the shadows and let his dignity speak for him, becomes a source of inspiration, reminding everyone that we should never underestimate the power of mutual respect and empathy, for these values reveal the true nobility of the soul.